This video is a health warning about consuming Ormus, about making your own Ormus, and I'll talk about and try to recreate with a simulation at the end of the video what happened to me. Yeah, stick around. If you're looking at Ormus, if you're looking to buy Ormus, you're looking to make it, it's really important that you hear this information. Good morning, YouTube. Today I'd like to talk to you about Ormus. This is a warning video. This is something that happened to me over the past few months. So let's sit down and have a coffee and I'll tell you all about it. So Ormus, what is it? If you don't know what it is, I'll give you a quick overview. If not, you can skip ahead to the point where I start talking about what actually happened to me. So Ormus is described as really small atoms, smaller than the atoms that we know in our periodic table. And it's something that only one machine, I believe, can actually test for. A farmer by the name of David Hudson is the guy that supposedly rediscovered this. And I say rediscovered because ancient alchemy talks about subjects that are so close to the descriptions of what Ormus talks about that it really feels like they're talking about the same thing, only alchemy discovered it through its processes and Ormus discovered it through modern methods. Okay, so compressed matter that fits in between matter. It fits quite nicely into the theory of this new 8th dimensional physics where they talk about tetrahedral mathematics describing at least 8 dimensions that make up the universe. It's really hard to think about space in terms of dimensions because our brain tries to think of things behind the veil of what we're actually looking at. But if you think of it in terms of, like, when you look at a propeller spinning really fast, you can't see it. You can see a blur. If you take a snapshot, you can see it in the moment where it is, but you can't look at it and our eyes can't perceive it. And you can think of Ormus the same way. It's so fast in its oscillations that we can't detect it with our modern equipment. So the claims that people make about Ormus, it's like talking about magic. They talk about manifesting their reality by consuming this product, and the things they hope and dream for become real. And is that how reality really works? I'm not 100% sure, but I have put my hand out to the universe and asked for things and been provided with them, so maybe there is some truth to that. But at any rate, let's get to the topic at hand. Making your own Ormus and consuming it. Now, through a friend of mine, an associate of his contacted me asking me if I could get Ormus out of seawater with an electrical method without using any, without using the caustic drop method. Now, I started to play around with that, and then I thought, well, let's see how much I'll get with a caustic drop. And I didn't have any pH meter, and I didn't have any pH papers, and I just started pouring caustic soda into ocean water, and a great big fluffy precipitate fell to the bottom, and I did it a couple of times, and it's this white powdery magnesium hydroxide and calcium hydroxide that is apparently the thing that brings down out of solution the Ormus minerals, and we're talking precious metal group type Ormus materials. Now, there's this warning when you're making the stuff about the magic pH value of 10.68, and if you go over that value, you're likely to drop out what they call Gilchrist precipitates. Now, having done a bit of research on that after what happened to me, I looked up... Quiet, please. talking to the internet. I looked up Gilchrist precipitates and found there's a guy called Raleigh Gilchrist who wrote all sorts of papers about dropping metals out of solution using caustic. And so that's where the information came from about that magic number. And if you go over that magic number, you start to drop out heavy metals. Lead, cadmium, mercury, arsenic, they're all in the heavy metal basket. So, fast forward to me sitting there with a beaker full of white fluffy looking material. I thought, okay, let's check these claims. I washed it so it didn't taste salty. I think I washed it about 5 times with distilled water. So basically, by washing it, you're taking out the salts and any leftover caustic from the dropping method. And then I put it on some plants to see if they responded. I didn't see anything significant there, and I thought I'll consume some myself. Big mistake. Big mistake. I got the cognitive lift that they talk about. You know, I had this amazing, faster thinking ability. I was waking up earlier. I felt like I had more energy. And I took it a few times during 1 week. And then all of a sudden, like overnight, this tinnitus, the loudest tinnitus I've ever experienced. I've got some tinnitus, but nothing like this was. This was so loud that it was disrupting my thinking. It was so loud, my internal, I guess how your ears work, they turn up the gain to get over your internal noise level, I guess. So I ended up with hearing so sensitive that there was a day here where the kids would make, you know, a little squeal or a squawk or a loud noise, and it felt like my ears were going into some form of overload, some sort of, what is it with audio? It's called distortion. It couldn't be eardrums rattling because they couldn't physically rattle the eardrums with the volume that wasn't as loud as normal eardrum rattling would, but I guess the gain was so high on my hearing to get over the sound of the noise that was in my head that everything sounded loud. Not only did it come with ringing in the ears, it came with clicking as well. I was trying to describe the clicking as a very small glass vial with a rock or a BB in the bottom and you're rattling it. Not a constant rattle, so I wasn't going tick, 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 tick. It was like ting, 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 ting on top of this sound. Now, I'm the kind of guy that likes to quantify things, and I thought, you know, maybe I can sort of get a feel for what this noise is, or maybe through biofeedback try and find some way to cope with it. The anxiety that came along at the same time was horrendous. So yeah, consumed at Ormus in the same week, ringing ears, clicking in the head, and the most intense anxiety and sweaty palms and terrible experience. If I could have avoided it and never went through this, I would have. And that's why I'm posting this, is because people need to know. If you're mucking around with this stuff, there's a chance this could happen to you. Like, if you're buying it and you bought it from someone who's got a bodgy pH meter and they're dropping Gilchrist precipitates into their stuff and you're buying it and drinking it, then you're taking in heavy metals. Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. Oh, that's good coffee. What else can I tell you? I think I may have alleviated some of it by consuming spirulina. And if we look at spirulina and chlorella type products, there's a big claim there that they help extract heavy metals from your system. But fast forward to 2 days ago, when I was sitting in this chair where I am now, and I experienced this remarkable shift in, like, it was like a pressure wave through my head. And if you've ever heard the test sound at the beginning of a THX surround sound movie, where you've got that sound that they run through all the speakers, that's kind of what happened to me. It was like it came from the right and it went to the left, and it was, yeah, in that moment, the tinnitus shifted out of my head. It was like gone. And it was around 3 months of hell. And to have it just evaporate like that, I sat here and I thought, what? Excuse me, talking to the internet. What could it have been that could have taken it away? And it's remarkable that I was talking about chelation therapy the day before with my wife, about removal of heavy metals from the brain using EDTA type chemicals, and it's something that's used in fringe Alzheimer's type therapies to chelate and remove heavy metals and aluminium and crap from your brain and give you better cognitive thinking. And I've been playing with fulvic acid in the garden. I bought this packet of fulvic acid. It's just like this super fine brown powder that smells like poo. When you scoop it out to mix it up into the watering can, it's really light and fluffy, and it gets in the air, and I noticed that some of it went up my nose, and I got it all over my hands, and that was the day before I had this shift sound thing happen. And if you look up the chelation properties of fulvic acid, it looks like that is what was the magic bullet. The magic bullet that came and took that hell away from me. And I'm day 2, or is this 3? I don't know. It's just so good to have quiet again. I still have a background level of tinnitus that I had before this happened. I believe that's just to do with too louder concerts and firecrackers and all the noise that I've been exposed to during my life. After this happened, obviously I jumped on the internet and started googling Ormus tinnitus, looking for answers, and I found some claims that Ormus could cure tinnitus, and that was not the thing I needed to find right there. It actually made me quite annoyed. I came across a reference to a roaring, trumpety type sound coming out through the top of your head, and that again was another red flag. I only found one instance of that. I'll link everything that I can think of that's poignant to the subject in the description. And I also want to encourage anybody that's had a bad experience consuming Ormus in a mental health aspect, whether it's tinnitus, whether it's anxiety, anything like that, feel free to contact me, especially if it's like a sudden onset tinnitus kind of situation, because if you've had the same sort of happening that I've had, then clearly there's something going on that needs to be addressed. What else can I say? We'll recreate for you what it sounded like. I've got, as I tried to mention earlier, but I get a bit lost in little branches of conversation, in an attempt to quantify what I was hearing, I downloaded a frequency generator type app for my smartphone, and through the process of just like tuning a guitar or musical instrument, I dialed in and found the frequency that my head was generating, and it was exactly 14.5 kilohertz sine wave. And when I pressed that function on the generator, I was hearing the exact same tone. It's remarkable that it was 0.5. It was right on the mark. It wasn't like, it wasn't 15. It wasn't 14.9. It was 14.5. And the closest I got to a sound of the clicking was the rattling of a zipper tag on one of my kids' school bags. So I'll recreate that for you at the end of the video. There'll be a little dark moment where I'll just have that tone playing and the rattling so that you can experience the hell that I went through just for a short time. I won't punish you for 3 months, I promise. So in summary, I believe I poisoned myself with heavy metals by not using a pH meter or pH papers to stay away from the Gilchrist precipitates that will drop out when you go over that 10.68 value. The effects that came with it were tinnitus in the form of clicking and a high frequency tone. That brought also anxiety. There was also some paranoia that went with the anxiety. It got that bad that I even thought that perhaps there was some microwave frequency being induced in my brain from a tower that's sort of 800 metres down the road that way, with a radome pointing sort of over our house. I even tried wrapping my head in foil to see if it would go away, which it didn't. Even going on a long drive well away from this area into a place where there wasn't any microwave towers, there was no alleviation, there was no escape. It was always there. And I also believe that I accidentally chelated it out of my brain by playing with fulvic acid in the garden. If you're in this predicament, there may be some hope for you to try some chelation therapy. Yeah, that's about it. Anyone talking about Ormus needs to see this. If you're buying it, just make sure it's from a reputable seller. Just be super careful. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching.